Hi, good morning or afternoon, depending on when you're watching this. This is Les Crane. I am the land appraiser for the Kenai Peninsula Borough Assessing Department, and this is part one of two of how we value land in the Kenai Peninsula Borough. So let's talk about the ABCs of assessing. So simple little equation here. We have A plus B equals C. So another way that we can look at that is land plus your structure value gives us your total value. And ultimately that's what we're trying to get at, is the total value, and we are estimating the market value. And something Melanie had stated in her presentation is she could give everybody a $1 land value and then adjust the structure values so that we come up with the correct total overall value. But in doing so, that would be extremely unfair and unequitable for everybody and would probably create quite a uprising. So we're going to look at the land component of your assessed value today. So a couple of common terms we'll talk about. Sales ratio is the assessed value divided by the sales price, expressed as a percentage. The median ratio tells us how close our modeled values are on average to the market value as represented by the sales price. And then the coefficient of dispersion, or COD, tells us how tightly the ratios are clustered around the median ratio. The basic concept for our valuation is raw land is valued on a price per acre basis in an inversely proportional relationship. Simply stated, as the number of acres increases and the overall price increases, the value per unit decreases. So that's a little bit confusing, so let's take a look at that with an example here. So we'll use 1 can of soda, or depending on where you come from, some people call it pop, but we buy 1 can and our total price is $2.50, making our price per unit also $2.50. Now, if we decide to buy a 12-pack of said soda, our overall price is going to be $12, making our price per unit only $1. So you can see as our units increase, our total price also increases, but our price per unit is decreasing. Now, looking at that on a graph, as we can see here, our first can of soda is $2.50. Then as we get down here to about 12 cans of soda, that gives us $1 per unit per can of soda. So hopefully that gives a little representation of what we do, and that's the same thing we do for land. So we can substitute the number of cans for acreage. So our first acre is going to be our most expensive, and then as we get down in size, as our size increases, you can see our price per acre also decreases. Once we've set that base rate, then we make adjustments for influences. Most of those influences we show as a percentage of the value, either positive or negative. And on occasion we do dollar adjustments as well. Influences we make adjustments for: natural gas, whether you have it or not, electric utility, the type of road access you have, if you are on any sort of body of water, the type of view and we will review views a little bit more in detail here shortly. Wetlands and usable, non-usable portions of your property. Things we do not make adjustments for is your neighbor has some junk cars, maintenance on your land, retaining walls, whether you have trees or no trees, fish in the river, snow in the mountains, boat tie-ups, and gravel pits. Gravel pits is a bit of a hot topic here lately, and that is something we are watching very closely. So far, we have not been able to determine a decrease in value based on having a gravel pit in close proximity, but we are watching that with a very close eye. So here is just a sample parcel. So this particular parcel is 39.98 acres. So our base value is $110,400. And then you can see we make percentage adjustments for the influences. So minus 10% for no gas. It has electric utility, so there is no adjustment that is built into our base rate. A 100% increase for a good view, and a minus 44% for having platted access only. So we take your base rate, subtract the adjustment for no gas, add the adjustment for the view, subtract the adjustment for the access, gives us a total value for $161,200. This particular property sold for $170,000, which gives us a sales ratio of 94.82%. Something we hear a lot is my price per acre on my property is twice as high as my neighbor. And that's we hear that quite a bit, and that will work just fine if the properties you're comparing are exactly the same size and have the same influences. So if they are not, then we are comparing apples to oranges. So let's take a closer look at that. So here is a comparison of two parcels that have the same acreage with different influences. So you can see here we have 5 acres and 5 acres, both with a base rate of 50,000. And then you can see the influences as I've listed them here. So for our first parcel, our total value is 52,000. And for our second parcel, it's 105,000. And you can also see the price per acre. So even though they have the same size, they also have different price per acre because they have different influences. Now let's take a look at two parcels that have the same influences but different acreages. So our first parcel here is 5 acres with a base rate. And then we make the adjustments. And then our second parcel is 10 acres, which has a higher base rate, which we would expect. And then those influences. So on our first parcel, we have a value of 105,000 for a price per acre of 21,000. And then our second parcel has a total value of 147,000 or 14,700 for our price per acre. So even though they have the same influences, they have different sizes, so you can't do a straight price per acre comparison on any of these. Like I said before, if you're going to do that, they need to be the exact same size and have the same influences. So let's talk about views for a minute here. We have 4 classification of views: none, limited, good, and excellent. And the percentage adjustment for each of those is going to be different in each market area. So for example, in sterling, no view is built into the base rate, and then anything above that is a positive influence. Or if we take a look in the Caribou Hills area, our excellent view is built into the base rate, and anything less than that is a negative adjustment. So here's a couple pictures of no view, and here's some for limited views, and then a couple of pictures for good views. And then this one is an interesting parcel. It's actually the exact same parcel, just looking in different directions. So looking towards the west, you can see Redoubt peeking through the treetops there. And then if I turn and look east, you can see the Kenai Mountain Range through there. So this particular parcel, if you looked at the pictures individually, I would classify those as a limited view. But because this is on the same parcel, I'm classifying that as a good view. Another example of a good view. And then pictures of some excellent views. So again, these two pictures are on the exact same parcel, just taken on different days. And we'll talk about weather and view potential here in a minute. Again, same parcel, different days, also taken in a different location. So depending on where you actually take the view picture, it may not give you a true representation of the view that's there on the parcel. Another excellent view. Now let's talk about view and the view potential. We can't always see the view when we're out inspecting the property. Usually this is due to the weather conditions, and unfortunately every day is not sunny here in Alaska. We also have trees and foliage that'll block our view. Just because we can't see the view doesn't mean it's not there. We rely on our local knowledge, our mapping tools such as contours and LiDAR to help determine if the topography will provide a view. So this is a view picture of a property that sold here in our local area recently, and took this picture probably 20-30 feet in on the property. So as you can see here, treed pretty well. There's no view here. So you can see this is where I was located as well within the property lines. And if I move a little bit further into the property, and lo and behold, we actually do have a view. So you can see Redoubt peeking through the trees there. And then if I turn to the north, notice we got the same flag there. Got Mount Spur also off in the distance. And here's a nice panoramic view of this particular parcel. So if I had just stopped at the beginning, I would not have seen that this property had actually a very good view. So looking at this particular parcel, we can also look at the contours. You can see the heavy purple lines, those are 20 feet in elevation. So from top to bottom, there's 60 feet of elevation difference in this parcel. So we can tell that that topography will lend itself to providing a view, even if we had just stopped at the beginning and couldn't see anything. And that's all we have for our land presentation. If you have any questions, feel free to give me an email.